I'm April Baer. Your support in 2025 allowed Michigan Public to bring people together with reliable, independent journalism. You've helped build a strong foundation for the reporting this year and years to come. Thank you so much.
From Michigan Public, this is It's Just Politics. I'm Zoe Clark.
And I'm Rick Pluta.
As the legislature gets underway for another year, we are talking with the state's leaders. So let's turn to the official who guests on this show have called the lawmaker who runs Lansing and the only person really having fun at the state capitol.
We are talking about the Republican Speaker of the House, Matt Hall, who in many respects has upended how things work at the Capitol.
Speaker Hall, welcome to It's Just Politics.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've been really excited about my debut on your show, and I listen every week, and I just filled out the survey. And hopefully your listeners fill out the survey. And your survey has a beautiful picture of me, Mike Duggan. Hopefully they go on your website and see this. Governor Whitmer, John James. So it attracted my attention. I said, what is this? And then it was a survey for your show. Hopefully they fill it out and ask for me on the show more. That would be nice.
I was going to say it's a survey asking folks what they would like to hear about Michigan politics. It is an anonymous survey, but I've started to look at some of the answers. And one of the answers is more Speaker Matt Hall. So we are taking up that listener survey's request. And I believe, I don't know, maybe that was yours. I don't know, Speaker. But either way, let's jump in. Let's start with just what are your priorities for this year?
I don't think that was me. You'll never be able to figure out which one was me. I think that was probably one of your many listeners. But anyway, we're really looking at a very successful year we had last year, culminated by the passage of HEAT, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan, which is finally bringing ethics, accountability, and transparency to Lansing. So now we can go through every one of these Democrat pork spending projects and look at it and say, what is the public benefit? Who is sponsoring this? And ensure that no for-profit corporations are receiving it. Then we're looking at issues like property tax reform. It's really important. I think people want to see relief on their property taxes. I want to tackle the cost of health care. And then also Governor Whitmer has said that her priority is literacy. So I'm really excited to work with her on figuring out how to improve literacy in our schools.
We spoke last week with your counterpart, Senator Winnie Brinks, the Democratic leader of the state Senate, and we were curious if you two have had conversations, meetings about what could actually get done in divided Lansing in an election year. Have you spoken with Winnie Brinks?
I haven't spoken to her this year yet. I listened to her on your show last week, and, she just talks about me the whole time. So, fortunately, there's a great leader of the Democrat Party, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and I'm the leader, kind of the default leader of the Republican Party in the legislature as the Republican speaker. And I think working with Governor Whitmer, who I have talked to recently, we can take on a lot of issues. We just passed a bill to ban the cell phones in the classrooms so the kids can focus on learning. My hope is Governor Whitmer will sign that bill before her State of the State, and that'll really start us off on a great track. And then we'll work together on literacy and property tax reform and healthcare reform. And ultimately, just like last year, Brinks will fall in line behind her governor and will get a lot done for the people.
You may think that, but what does it portend for actually getting bipartisan work done on literacy, affordability, if you're not having those conversations?
Well, we'll see. In the coming week, will they pass the cell phone bill that we moved out of the House? Will they vote this week to ban the cell phones in the classrooms and get, the school districts really to come up with a plan that bans the cell phones during instructional time? We got that through the House last week. It's their opportunity to pass it. And I think it'd be really good if they passed it before Governor Whitmer gives her State of the State on February 25th. And then we're going to put forward our plans on property tax reform, healthcare reform, and we'll go from there. But again, We had a lot of success last year in getting some of the big ideas through roads, fixing the local roads, dedicating all the money collected at the pump to roads, and heat, the whole ethics, accountability, and transparency plan. And so we'll continue on the path we did last year, which is working with Governor Whitmer.
Speaking of last year, last month, before the legislature wrapped for the year, there was a pretty stunning vote in your chamber. The House Appropriations Committee unilaterally repealed more than $640 million of work projects. This was money already budgeted and being spent on, for example, prenatal and newborn programs, Flint water crisis recovery funding. I don't think I've gotten to ask yet, whose idea was it to make this cut?
Yeah, I mean, Ann Boland has been talking about this for quite some time.
The House Appropriations Committee chair.
Yep. And so she really had the idea. I didn't even know what these work projects were until last year. So she had the idea when I was interviewing her to be the House Appropriations chair. And part of our efforts when we uncovered the $5 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse we found in the budget, including the ghost employees, the fake workers that they put on the books to pad the departments, we found billions of dollars in the government slush funds. It's up to $10 billion. And so it was her idea. I worked through it with her and her team, and ultimately we settled on a limited number of cuts. It was $600 million out of $2.1 billion that we clawed back. And now that the consensus revenue estimating conference came out and said we're basically going to need to be, it's really about $1.2 billion less than last year in spending. That $600 million that wasn't spent from the previous year is going to be really helpful in avoiding major cuts in the budget.
Speaker, I want to note you threw out some billions of dollars. There's been some pushback about whether that $5 or $6 billion has actually been cut from the budget. But we want to keep talking here. The word in Lansing is that Republicans, a number of Republicans in both the state House and Senate, are not happy about these cuts. These are cuts that take money from projects and programs in their districts. Are you getting pushback? And is there a possibility you might put some of this money back in the budget?
Well, when we made the cuts, we said at that time that what we were doing was we were going to cut it. And then, when the new year started, the new law came into effect, HEAT, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan, which requires them to justify their pork spending. So we did say that at the time. I think what's also being lost here, though, is a lot of this department funding. What the departments are doing is they ask for more money than they need, often through the ghost employees. And then when they don't spend the money at the end of the year, they try to keep it for another 4 years. So it's not just the pork spending. It's also all this departmental spending. I mean, the fact is we don't have the money, Zoe. We don't have the money we had. The report said we're down $1.2 billion over the last budget. I'm sorry, I have to be the one to break it to all the Democrats, but these cuts are coming no matter how we do it. And they're going to be happy that $600 million we didn't spend from a year ago is in play, so we don't have to make as drastic cuts.
We're speaking with Republican Speaker of the House, Matt Hall.
Mr. Speaker, we are in an even-numbered year, an election year, and this one is really going to be unlike anything we've seen in recent Michigan elections. An open U.S. Senate seat, open seats for governor, secretary of state, attorney general, plus the entire state Senate, and in your backyard, the entire state house. That includes your seat. With all of that in play, what is the window for the legislature this year to get anything done before all eyes turn to campaigning?
Yeah, I've heard you. A lot of the reporters are skeptical. Those reporters were saying that I wouldn't be able to get a roads deal done that permanently dedicated $2 billion or more to roads, to finally dedicate all the money collected at the pump to roads. They said we wouldn't be able to do that because it was never done under Whitmer. And you saw Governor Whitmer say, I'm the only leader she's worked with, including Winnie Brinks, who has the guts and the brains to put a roads plan on the table and pass it through the chamber. We did that and we got it done. That was, it took her 7 years until I was speaker to get that done. So, they were laughing at me about budget transparency and the earmark disclosure, and we got that done. So there's a lot we can get done. I mean, who would have thought Whitmer would sign no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, amplifying one big beautiful bill? So as we approach this year, I plan to be very aggressive. I plan to be in session a lot. We've posted that calendar already. I really intend to be in on all those days that we listed. I want to get things done on healthcare affordability. You talk to small businesses, it's going up 20% a year, their insurance costs. You talk to regular people, they know the drug prices and the hospital bills and things are very expensive, their insurance premiums. We're going to tackle property tax reform, and we're going to work with Governor Whitmer on literacy. And so my hope is we have a couple really measurable, clear accomplishments that are going to bring down the cost of living for Michiganders. And we're not going to play it safe. It's Governor Whitmer's last year, and it's Winnie Brinks's last year. Now, I have another 4 years after this as Speaker, hopefully. So my hope is they're going to be motivated to solve problems. And if I set the pace and I'm aggressive and I'm in session and we're doing bold things, my hope is that the Democrats will follow suit.
So with all of the aggressive activity that you've talked about, can you promise that, unlike last year, that this year a state budget will get done by the July 1st statutory deadline?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm hopeful that we'll get a budget out of the House before then, and we'll have an opportunity to negotiate. When I look at what the Democrats are saying in the Senate, like the ultimate Lansing insider, Sarah Anthony, what they're saying in the Senate is they're kind of hinting at using our state's rainy day fund. We don't need to use our rainy day fund because we gave tax cuts and permanently dedicated money to a higher priority, which was roads, than waste, fraud, and abuse. We don't need to use our rainy day fund for that. So, we'll see what their list of cuts is. And when I say it's 1.2 billion, it's 800 million from the departments. That's what we have to cut. We did that last year. We cut 800 million from departments and dedicated it to roads. This year we have to cut 800 million from departments to balance our budget. Then the other 500 million, that's the pork. So when they say it's like 800 million over last year, they just assume that all the pork's gone. They call that one-time spending.
Speaker.
But there's ongoing 800 million's got to be cut. And then next year, another 900 million the next year. So they're going to have to come with their list of cuts. I've identified, like I said, $5 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse. They should thank me for bringing back another pot of hundreds of millions of dollars from unspent funds from last year. And then they've got to come with their list of cuts. I'll have my list of cuts, and hopefully we'll be a lot closer together to start than last year, where, we tried to cut $5 billion and they tried to tack 3% on the top. If they have a reasonable list of cuts, we'll be able to get a deal much sooner this year.
Speaker, I didn't hear a promise there that the budget was going to get done in time. And what I'm thinking about again is Rick's question about the fact that we are in an election year. I can imagine that you would not want to have a late budget past the statutory deadline of July 1, certainly the constitutional deadline of October 1st, while your members are out trying to campaign. Mike Duggan, who's running as an independent for governor, really, pushed back on the legislature this past year and said, look, Lansing is unable to do its job. This is why you need an independent governor. I have to believe that you want a budget done on time.
Yeah, well, I think Mike Duggan really hurts the Democrats. I was watching that interview on Tim Skubik's show where, Richard Kuzba?
Richard Schuba.
Yeah, he was on there saying that, Mike Duggan pulls all these independent voters and some of the Democrat voters. And, with Mike Duggan in the race, you see John James performing in first place, the Republican. So, I think Winnie Brinks has a lot to worry about from that. But, we're not going to make a deal that raises taxes or raids the rainy day fund in the budget. And by the way, I've worked together with Mike Duggan very well. We came up together with the Public Safety Trust Fund, something that is investing in local governments. It's the first time in Michigan's history the local governments are getting direct appropriation from the legislature for public safety. You have some of these local governments that waste money, and they're always asking for more money. So we said, look, we're going to give you more money, but you have to spend it on public safety, new police, new equipment, and lowering your violent crime rates. And then we're going to give more money to the ones that lower their violent crime rates over time. That was Mike Duggan's idea. It was a good idea. And the Democrats didn't want to do it because it was his idea. I worked with him. We got that done in the budget. So I have a great relationship with Mike Duggan. I'm not afraid of Mike Duggan, but, Winnie Brinks should be afraid of Mike Duggan.
Do you like Mike Duggan enough to endorse him?
I really like Mike Duggan, but I'm not going to endorse him. I'm going to be supporting the Republican candidate. And, Mike Duggan's done a great job as mayor of Detroit. But, John James is a great candidate for governor, a congressman. Eric Nesbitt is a great candidate. I've worked very closely with Eric as Senate Republican leader. He'd be phenomenal. He has so much experience as a member of the House and a member of the Senate. Mike Cox, the former Attorney General, is fantastic. And Tom Leonard, who's a former Speaker of the House, would be a great governor too. So I'm going to support the Republican, but, I'm not afraid of the consequences in electing Mike Duggan. I work very well with Mike Duggan. Just like I make deals with Gretchen Whitmer, I can make deals with Mike Duggan, and I can make deals with the Republican candidates.
Speaker, finally, speaking of the election, we will see a question on the ballot that only comes every 16 years. It will ask Michigan voters whether they want to convene a convention to entirely rewrite the state constitution. When I asked you last year, you were thinking you were in favor of holding a so-called con-con. Do you still think this would be a good idea for the state?
I do, yeah. I think that there's, I'm a constitutional attorney, and that's something that a lot of people point out. I'm also an expert in management. I don't know if you know that, but I have a degree in management, and I've led an organization that has the lowest turnover of any speaker in probably a decade. And that even goes back to when I was minority leader. When Joe Tate, the Democrat, was speaker, the people were leaving that office left and right. It was crazy. But anyway, with the con, yeah, I support it because they jam so much stuff in this Constitution. It doesn't really look like a Constitution. And I've seen many constitutions as a constitutional attorney. And I'm telling you, this does not look like a Constitution. And so we need to kind of clean it up a little. You look at things like the marijuana issue. If there are common sense changes we want to make to it, I need a 75% vote. After years, you got to change some things, but 75% vote in today's day and age is hard to get. So I think we got some things that we got to clean up in there, and that's why we need a constitutional convention.
Republican Speaker of the House, Matt Hall, there endorsing the idea of a con, talking about this year in Lansing and what could or will not get done. Speaker, thank you so much for the time today.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Hey, thank you. I really enjoyed being on with you both. Thanks for having me.
And Rick, before we go, very quickly, that survey that the speaker mentioned at the top of the show, we want to hear from you. You can take that survey. It will ask you what you want to hear more of in election 2026 coverage. Find it at michiganpublic.org/survey. And that is It's Just Politics for today. I am Zoe Clark.
And I'm Rick Pluta.
Let's talk again next week.